All right, I guess it's real. Look at that, right on time.
Right on time. Let's go.
All right, speaking of right on time, you are tuning in to Rico's Corner. My name is Rico, and I am the founder and event coordinator for Rico Layer Events, the company that prioritizes virtual and in person gaming and birthday celebrations. And today, I am honored to be uh, visited by Chris Lodgson. He is the founder of. Let me make sure I get all your accolades right. He is the founder of Sac Black Biz, Sacramento County's largest directory and digital marketing platform for local Black businesses. In addition to a lead organizer for the Coalition for the Just and Equitable California and the American Redress Coalition of California. All very impressive, and I thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you for having me. Shout out to you, Rico. Shout out to Rico Leia Events. I have been blessed to have you as a client of ours at Sac Black Biz for some time now, and we enjoy so much promoting your business. We think you have a great business, a great brand, and you do great events, really events that we don't see being done. You do. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. And yeah, it's an honor to be here.
Yeah, I definitely didn't foresee this being the way that our professional relationship turned out when I first signed up for your service. But just learning that you are a great person all around, and everything that you're in, any type of business that you're in, it flourishes. And that is going to lead us to our topic for today, which was really tailored to you and your passion.
Yes.
And that is bridging the gap between business and government.
Yeah.
So jumping right into it, can you go ahead and get started by just kind of explaining how you got into your line of work that you're in right now?
Yeah. Great question. And so the work that we do right now at Sac Black Biz, I'll talk about Sac Black Biz's work and then use that as a way to connect to the work that we do in and at the Coalition for Just and Equitable California. So I started Sac Black Biz in 2016 after I got out here to California. So some of y'all could probably already tell I got a non-California accent. I'm originally from New York City. I was born and raised in Manhattan and Brooklyn, New York. I lived my whole life out there until about 2015. I spent a couple years out of state when I was going to school. I went to Howard University for a couple years in Washington, D.C., HBCU, the real HU. And so I did spend a couple years out of the state, but really spent most of my life in New York until about 2015. Got out here, started Sac Black Biz, really as a way to first connect people to Black-owned businesses in the city and county of Sacramento, and then to find Black-owned businesses in the city and county of Sacramento. I was looking for, when I got here, I was looking for Black-owned businesses, and it was harder to find Black-owned businesses than I thought it should be. And so I used some of my own skills in social media to help create a space and a place on social media to help people find, connect, do business with, experience Sacramento County's Black-owned businesses, including myself. And that really started as a Facebook group back in 2016. The Facebook group was called, and still is called, Sac Black Biz Community and Commerce. And it started with a few people. Today, it has over 10,000 people, 10,000 members in that group doing business and finding business every single day. And we eventually added a Facebook page and then an Instagram page and then a website. SacBlackBiz.biz is the website. And along those lines, and this is sort of the segue here, along those lines, and when I was doing that work, I started to realize that business and government, business and politics, business and society go together. So it's one thing to do business, it's one thing to do economic stuff, but it's also the case that there's a connection between business and government. And so at Sac Black Biz, really early on, really like in the first 2 years, we started doing advocacy and talking to our government officials and government people about what they could do more for Black-owned businesses in the city and county of Sacramento, and then at a certain point at the county level, and then at the state level later on. So we actually started doing work to make sure that there was government resources going to Black-owned businesses, or at least government support going to Black-owned businesses here in the city and county of Sacramento.
Yeah, I definitely want to speak to the work that you're doing over at Sac Black Biz first. I definitely like all of it is beautiful, but specifically for me, since that was the way that we first connected, it is amazing to have that resource. And as being a Black business owner, it's not always easy to find people that look like you, that's in your same struggles, that understands what it means to start from the ground up and trying to figure out where you fit, where your puzzle piece fits, on the board and all those different things. So being able to kind of come out the gate sort of in my case, and like find your resource in Sac Black Biz, and connect with you and other Black business owners in Sacramento. It's I won't say that it makes it easier, but it makes it the road to finding my own lane a little bit more manageable. I would say a lot more fun too.
Thank you for saying that, and that's great to hear. And that's part of why we do this is really to support and serve business owners like yourself, entrepreneurs like yourself, to help you get a head start, to help you have a place and a market, and a space where there are people who are interested in your services, who are interested in your brand. And really, as I said, it started as a community service. So, Sac Black Biz is now a business. So now it is a business. Now it is a business and a company. But really, for the first, I would say, really up until like the last year and a half, to be honest with you. So like 2021, late 2021, early 2022 was when we decided to actually form a business. So we were actually doing this work just as a community service for years, about 5, 6, 7 years almost, just to support business owners like you, because we thought there was a need and a desire to do that. And we're glad to see that it's helping you. We're glad to see that it's helping everybody that we can help. And there's more that we can do. There's more that we want to do. But thank you for saying that.
Yeah, definitely. You kind of touched on it a little bit in your initial answer for question number one, but for you, what does it look like to be able to bridge the gap between business and government, and what sort of resources do you when you first started out, did you look for in order to get funding and get started, and how does that translate to the coalition and the other programs that you advocate for?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So, wow, where to start? So for me, I think a lot of entrepreneurs realize early on, and I'm sure you've seen this yourself in your own work, that the government, and by the government here, I'm talking about like your city government, in most of our cases, our county and our state governments. And there's a big connection to our federal government too with taxes, but we could get to that later. But I think a lot of that, I think a lot of us realize early on when we want to start businesses, when we're ready to start businesses, that there is a connection between government. And I think we don't realize it in those words. Like we don't think, oh, I got to go to the government. But the way it works for us is a lot of times we need a license. Where do you get the license from? You get it from your city, your county, your state. So you get it from the government. A lot of times we need permits. Where do you get the permits from? So this is before you even can say you have a business on paper. You have to get in a way to say this is you have to get permission in some ways to actually do your business from city governments, county governments, state governments, through a license, through filing your paperwork, to registering your business, filing what we call a fictitious business name, right? A lot of us have to do that as we start our businesses. And who do you file those with? You don't file them with nobody. You file them with the government, with the government agencies, et cetera. And we don't, I think about it in those terms, but that is a very early really first step connection for businesses to the actual government. Also, I think, and I just mentioned this, but taxes.
Very big
Who
thing.
do you pay the taxes to?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Even
Right?
though
You
you
don't
might
pay
not
them,
want to. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, right? You don't pay them to nobody, right?
Yeah.
You pay them to the government. You pay the, and again, we don't always think about it in those words, but you're paying taxes to your city, you're paying taxes to your county, you're paying taxes to your state and to the feds. Those are parts of our government. I think, you know, another way I think that's sort of natural is, and unfortunately, sometimes we have business disputes, and sometimes we need a third party
Mhm.
to help us resolve business disputes. Well, sometimes we use the courts for that, right? The courts are part of what we might think of as our government. So I think there's a very natural, sort of easy understanding of what the connection is. For me, though, a lot of the connection outside of the like natural stuff that I just talked about, a lot of the connection is really about making sure that our city governments, our county governments, our state governments actually see and support Black-owned businesses specifically, and in a way that is good and helpful
Mm.
and effective for Black-owned businesses. A lot of other groups get specific types of support for their businesses. And for me, a lot of my work has been around making sure that our city governments, county governments, state governments actually do the same for our Black-owned businesses. And there are a bunch of examples that I could give of that, but that is sort of what it looks like for me.
Okay. Thank you for that. Like that was definitely in depth and detailed, and it brings me to another question that I didn't have, but it just popped up into my head. Is there any resources or programs that you see that are available now that was not available when you were first coming into the industry? And can you kind of break those down of like what they are and how they help other entrepreneurs that you see coming up?
Yeah. So I'll give you one example of something that wasn't happening that is happening now. And then I'll give you an example of something that was happening before, but I think is important enough to mention anyway, because it actually helps so much that I think it's important. So the first thing is, so I think we're all still kind of, we're in the I guess aftermath of the quarantine COVID-19 era.
Yeah.
And I think, during the quarantine COVID-19 era between 2020 and 2021, there was about a 40% drop in the number of Black-owned businesses between that year alone. So within 1 year, almost half of all Black-owned businesses went out of business. Um, and now, since then, there's been a increase in the number of Black-owned businesses, but during that time, and so if you can remember that time, there was a lot of ideas and thoughts about what we can do to support businesses, and there were these big programs, right? The PPE,
Oh
PPP, and the EIDL, right? So the payment protects the payment protection plan or something like that, and then the SBA had the EIDL thing going on. I'm gonna mess up the acronyms. I'm not even gonna try. Okay?
So many
But
acronyms. Fine.
yeah, it was we were calling the idle loans, the economic in blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So there were all these government programs, but I sit in, and so a lot of what we were working on, by we I mean at Sac Black Biz, a lot of what we were working on at that time was making sure that local Black-owned businesses here in the Sacramento area were able to get to those programs and get that money. But it was so hard. It was so hard because of the way that the programs were set up, for reasons I don't have time to go into now.
Yeah.
So what we fought for was a city level micro loan program that did not exist before the quarantine era, from the city of Sacramento, where businesses were granted, I believe, up to about $5,000 each, to help support their businesses through the COVID-19 quarantine era. And we fought hard for that. We worked really, really hard. I can remember sitting in meetings with city officials and folks from the city manager's office and city council people and folks from the mayor's office, also, and fighting really hard and helping them to design the program in a way that touch Black-owned businesses. So it's not enough to say this is for businesses. It has to be designed in a way that's specifically gets to Black-owned
Yeah.
businesses. For example, quickly, one thing that we were very intentional about is making sure that the program was a micro business program. So meaning businesses with really 3 employees or less.
Yeah.
90%, 95% of Black-owned businesses have one employee, and that employee is usually the owner
Yep.
itself. Okay,
Same
right?
here.
That's me, that's you, right? Right? That's 95% of us. A lot of our businesses also are home based, right? So don't have physical locations, right? So making sure that inside of that program that the city created, where things like that, criteria like that is something that we worked on, and again, that's something that didn't exist before the quarantine era that it exists now. Also, just to lastly here, so there's a really dope program that's run by an organization called California Capital FDC.
Mhm.
California Capital FDC, and they were doing amazing. So, and now they get government funding to do technical training, technical support for businesses. Okay? And and the way they do that is they offer a lot of free classes and free one-on-one counseling for businesses using in many ways, and not I think completely, but in many ways, government support to actually do that. And that's I think important to mention here because it was going on before the quarantine era, but it's I think it really took off, sort of took on a special sort of meaning after the quarantine era. And just I just posted on my Instagram in the last 24 hours. There was a free class, going on actually tonight about how to take your business from idea to reality. So things like that.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to the invaluableness of having resources. Yes, having money and having access to hard cash, right, is always good. But like being able to have options where you're going to free classes, you have access to free mentors, and you are able to connect with other business owners and network that way. And um, yeah, so the money is one thing, but being able to sustain over a long period of time through those free resources like the classes, like the mentorship, it's so important, especially when you're first starting out. If you don't really know a lot about business, for me, that was where I went first. I was like, okay, where are my
Yeah.
resources? And so
Yeah.
actually, I went through the Cal Asian Chamber of Commerce and the Minority Business Development Center.
There you
Uh,
go. Yep.
and when I was approved to be in the California Dream Fund, right? And then I also went through, let's see, let me make sure I get this right, the Metro Business Center and the Carlson Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship
Yeah.
in Sacramento when I was approved and got into the Lean Innovator cohort. And both of those were free resources to me, but they are state run programs.
Yep. They're
And
government
that's important.
programs. Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, so it's definitely important to know where to find those type of resources because
Right.
like when it's hard to find, when it's hard to get a loan, when it's hard to get a grant,
Yeah.
having those things is good for the interim as you're learning and expanding your business.
Well,
And
let me
those are
say one thing, just to just to say everything that you just said in a different way too. But you're absolutely right. Let's talk about the hard dollars and cents that means. So you get tremendous value from what you learn, but you're also saving money. So so let's think about it from the business side
yeah,
here, right? Let's think about the business case. Those things would cost you money
a lot of
to
money.
learn that stuff.
Yeah,
It's free to you because there's a government support behind it, but it's free to you. If it weren't free to you, you would have to pay for that, meaning you would have to spend your business dollars or dollars that could go toward your business on that. So there's a hard business case for that kind of support, but there's also the what you get from it case too.
yeah, definitely. And I, for one, I didn't take very light. I don't take it lightly when I actually am able to get into those type of programs because I know, like, if I had to pay for this out of pocket, it would take me years to be able to afford it, right?
Oh yeah.
So I definitely okay. Like, when I first like funny enough, when I first started Rico Layer Events, I spent maybe like the first 2 months just Googling um, funding resources for new business owners. And like that's how I
Yeah,
found a lot of those things. But it's just like if you don't take the time to really seek them out, they won't just fall into your lap. But it is
and they
more
won't.
it's more about like knowing where to look, and in my case, where to start.
Right.
You know, 'cause, like you go down a few rabbit holes, but you get to the point where you're like, oh, I'm connecting the dots. Like all of these programs actually like intertwine with each other.
And
Like
it's
this,
worth it. It's worth your
yeah.
time. It is. And I think the statistics. So Sack Black Biz was a member of. I think up until last year, we were a member of the California Micro Enterprise Opportunity Association, what we call Cameo.
Okay.
And I think one of the things that I remember reading from some of their materials was that 80% of business owners and entrepreneurs don't get any technical assistance at all, like
Mhm.
before or during while they're starting their business. So for you to get that kind of free technical assistance and technical support gives you a huge advantage over other business owners, not to mention the hard business cost case that we mentioned, and then not to mention everything else that you get from it too.
Yep. Yep. So thank you for that. I'm going to conclude our session with something a little bit light, or maybe not so light, depending on how your answers are. So this is an activity I'll call one word. And one word, you're going to have a scenario or a prompt, and you're going to just say one word on how you would describe your feeling or your passion or whatever for the prompt. So
Okay,
today's
I'm ready.
prompt is you have one word to describe your passion for business. Which word would it be?
Oh, one word to describe my passion for business. Tenacious.
Oh, I love that word. Yeah, I love it. I would definitely go with evolving, because
Mm.
the more that I learn, I'm like a lifelong learner.
Oh, I like that.
The
Yeah.
more that I learn, it just I put it into what I'm doing, and I see how I can like uh, break that apart and like put it back together and see what Frankenstein monster I get.
Wow, I love that. I love
That I
that.
can move forward with. So yeah, it's definitely evolving. But I love tenacious too.
Yeah, yeah. I think that it just that it sort of matches my energy. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say tenacious because that is I think a accurate description of sort of the passion that I have for business, and really the passion I have for business is really driven by it's really a piece of the passion that I have for Black people, right? So I see business as a way to help Black people as a
Yeah.
whole, right? So it's not so much even about individually, even though there are great individual financial benefits,
Hmm.
and also social benefits. You meet great people like yourself, but it's also about how do I help build, and how does business help build a stronger Black community?
I love it. I love it. And that's really what's about us helping each other stay strong, build strong businesses. So that way, we're still around in 20 plus years to really be able to make a mark on the community. So,
Yeah, yeah, and so that our kids have things that they can have that we give to them, and our
mhm.
kids' kids, and our kids'
And
right? I think
legacy.
this is also a part of that too. And again, this is really about building a stronger Black community.
I love it. I love it. So that's all that I had. It was a lot of fun, and I want to open the floor for you to share with the people how they can continue to support
Yeah,
Sack Black Biz and any of the coalitions that you are part of,
yeah.
and any projects that you have coming up.
Yeah, so at Sack Black Biz on Instagram. That's at Sack Black Biz on Instagram. Same thing on Facebook at Sack Black Biz. SackBlackBiz.biz is the website. Also, for the work that I do around the Coalition for a Just and Equitable California, it's at CJEC Official. At CJEC Official. The coalition works on reparations statewide here in California. For those who don't know, California is the first state already to create a statewide reparations task force, and that task force is doing amazing work. They're actually going to be here in Sacramento next week, Friday, March 3rd, Saturday, March 4th. And all the info on that is on our website, cjec-official.org.
Thank you. And I'm going to wrap up by going and plugging, shamelessly plugging my upcoming game night. I am introducing a new live stream trivia night series. It's going to
Ooh.
start, and it's all going to be covering holiday trivia. So I'm going to be starting with St. Patrick's Day. So if you are available on March 16th at, let's see what time it's going to be. I think it's going to be 6:30. I'm
Ooh.
head over to ricolayer.eventbrite.com and grab your tickets. You can play solo or grab everybody in the house and have a nice little competition going. So that's going to be my first next upcoming event, and then after that, I'm going to be doing my regular game and trivia night on April 8th. And again, that's ricolayer.eventbrite.com. I'm always on IG and Facebook at Rico Layer Events. DM me, hit me up, and let me know how you guys are liking these lives and the events. All right, yeah. So thank you.
Love that. I love that. Yo, you have a great business. Yeah, you got a great personality. There's much respect, much love, much blessings to you. Keep up the great work, and we're here to support.
That's what it's about. I definitely appreciate you taking the time out, Chris. Just from everything you
My
said,
pleasure.
you're always on the go. So thank you for
Oh
taking
yeah, yeah. I'm
a
about to
portion
I'm
of
about to
your
do a
night
radio
out.
show in the next like 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and let you go, and I hope you have a great night. And if you're catching this live or you watching the replay, let me know how you like it in the comments, and I will see you guys next month. Bye.